Hey everybody, welcome to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and today is a big day here on the channel. We've been waiting for this one for nearly a year, and the day it's finally come. Today is December 9th, Monday, 2019. And just a few days ago, we thought things couldn't get any better for us Ghostbusters fans because Vanity Fair revealed the first official photos from the new Jason Reitman Ghostbusters movie. Here today, on Monday, December 9th, we've got the first official trailer, and wow, this is pretty big stuff here. It's been a long time coming, 35 years since the first movie came out, and, I gotta say, initial reactions on the trailer, it's not disappointing. I was a little bit concerned when I first saw those Vanity Fair images and read some of the description of what's happening, but now, seeing the trailer, I've got a lot more interest again. I'm feeling rejuvenated and feeling revived, so let's just jump in and start talking about it, because this isn't going to be a trailer react kind of video where I'm going to watch it and go, ooh, ah. Instead, I'm going to kind of analyze some of the Easter eggs that I saw, or at least that I think I saw, and you guys can let me know what you think. Let me know if I missed any. Give me your breakdowns as well of what you think is going on. And as we talk about it, we'll talk about what we've seen in the trailer and I guess our initial thoughts on the movie. And again, I want to hear what you guys have to say. So once we get through this video, make sure you comment below. Let me know what you think about the new trailer and all the stuff we're looking at today. So let's go ahead and jump in to the first big thing here. And so this is not really an Easter egg, I don't think. It's just kind of like the term is a trompe l'oeil, where it fools your eye. And if you look up, right above where it says director, where there's that big wheel, you can see something that looks like a Ghostbusters logo. Yeah, okay, it's not actually a Ghostbusters logo or an Easter egg. It's just like how it looks when the image is smaller. But you can't lie. I mean, that kind of looks like a Ghostbuster symbol, but I'm stretching for that one. But let's get some actual Easter eggs here. And the first thing that we see that's really noticeable is this right here. That's symmetrical book stacking, folks. So that's something from the original 1984 movie when the three original guys go to the library and they are checking out the ghost in the basement, and there's symmetrical book stacking. So to be honest, I don't think this is actually a ghost that has done this. I think it's probably someone playing a prank. Maybe it's Trevor, which is Finn Wolfhard's character. But in the scene, we do know that there's some earthquake stuff happening here. And we can see also on the left side Carrie Coon, who is the mother, Callie. And we haven't seen Phoebe yet, but we'll see her in a moment. But that's the granddaughter of someone in particular. It's pretty important. So another Easter egg that I thought was really cool was if you take a look, not at those delicious looking munchkins, but if you take a look at that mug. So we're in the sheriff's office, I guess, right now. And if you look at that mug, it's got the badge of this department. And we're going to come back to that badge in a little bit. But for you guys who have been watching the Ghostbusters news videos we've been doing each month here on this channel, we've seen that symbol a lot throughout the videos. So that's the crest of the town, but it's also got some important symbology in it, I guess, some iconography, which we're going to talk about later. But we can kind of see from this image here, as we actually zoomed in on it a little bit, it's still not the greatest quality to look at it, but you can see like there's some mining iconography, and there's also some Shandor stuff going on here. So, we saw... If you don't want to get spoiled, I'm always trying to talk about this without spoiling things, but if you don't want to get entirely spoiled, this might not be the best video to watch because we have seen some things during production. And if you've been avoiding that, well, good luck. You might want to turn off this video right now. But we saw some things that were familiar from Ivo Shandor. Ivo Shandor was really the behind-the-scenes bad guy, in a way. In the first Ghostbusters movie, he's basically the cause of Zool and Gozer and his Gozer worshippers. And it seems like the town of Somerville, Oklahoma has a very deep connection to this particular character, but more on that as we scroll on through. So over here is the first ghost that we see in the trailer, and this image here is how we see it in the trailer. It's a little bit dark. You can see him, he's up here in that corner right below my head, and it almost looks like a Scoleri brother. I mean, some people might want to say it's Slimer, but it's not because it's blue. The shape of it reminds you of a Scoleri, but it's actually none of those characters. We're going to get some better looks at him a little bit later on. But the first ghost that we're seeing in this trailer appears to be a completely new design, a new ghost we've never seen before in any of the movies. And here is a better look. So I brightened up the image a little bit so you can get a better idea of him. Very puffy, very fat, very gelatinous. Again, that's what made me think about Scaleris first because of the shape of it. But as we're going to see as we go on through this, it's not a Scoleri. So here's a look at from behind McKenna Grace's character, which is Phoebe. And she's got herself a PKE meter in her hand as she's headed towards her grandfather's farm, her cabin, that they've inherited, essentially. Now, that's kind of like the big plot of this. One of the first things we learn about it is that this family is related to some important person, obviously in the Ghostbusters world. And since this person passed, they've now inherited this farm, and they're moving out there because they're now broke, and it's pretty much all they have left. So if we go on ahead, though, we'll see a better shot of this PKE meter. It looks really beat up, like it's seen better days. This must have been something that she found, which we'll talk about a little bit later. There's basically a part of the trailer where she's like basically solving a floor puzzle, if you will, and she finds a few things, I would assume, and this must be one of the things that she finds, this beat up PKE meter, which leads her into this here. This must have been Egon's shed. And I didn't really see any interesting Easter eggs necessarily in this part here. Like maybe right behind her head, there's like a radiation sign. I don't think that's part of the containment unit in the first movie. I think it's just a general radioactive warning that we're getting here. But you'll see to her right, and also better in this photo. Actually, not that one, but there's some spores, molds, and funguses growing out of there, which is pretty cool. That's part of Egon's collection. But right below that here, we have this big scene, and I figured there's going to be a ton of Easter eggs in this one. I was not wrong. So I've brightened this image up here. We can get a better look at things. Obviously, first off, though, we do see the proton pack. Sorry, we can see the proton pack here. Here's a better brightened up version of that image. So obviously, the proton pack is the centerpiece. But if we look around at the rest of the room, there are a few other things here. One of those things I actually neglected to make a note of, which I'm seeing here, is this computer screen. I think this might have been like that imaging type computer that Egon used on Louis Tully in the first movie when he gets possessed. Because that's what that might appear to be. But let's take a look at things one by one. And the first thing that stood out to me was these lenses over here. And those appear to be part of the ecto goggles that we saw Ray wear in the first movie. This might have been Egon working on some own goggles, maybe some new ones, I don't know. But that pretty much appears to me to be the ecto goggles. And right next to that, it looks like there's some pieces from Ghost Traps as well that he may have been working on. So that's something right there. In addition to that, we've got another computer screen. I think this might be like Egon's personal digital Tobin spirit guide, or his like ghost catalog, perhaps, his Spates catalog, if you will. I think that's what that is potentially going to be. I mean, there's a lot of equipment that's turned on here. We don't know what any of this stuff does yet. My theory is, though, that this could be kind of his archive of ghosts and ghostly information. Right next to that, we have this little thing here. It's a little bit hard to see in this image, but if you scroll back out a little bit, we'll see we're looking at this part down here right below my head. So I thought that might have been what Louis Tully had put on himself. Jumping ahead a little bit there. What Louis Tully had put on his head when they were, again, that scene where Louis was possessed by the Keymaster. But I don't think that's what that is. I actually think that might be, if it's a throwback to anything, part of Ghostbusters 2, where they were dealing with the mood slime, and Ray had this thing on his head where they were connecting to it to kind of make it active with his emotions and feelings and brainwaves. I think that might be what that is, oddly enough. So that's actually a throwback to Ghostbusters 2, if that's the case, which is interesting to see that there. Since you guys already saw this, though, we just kind of jumped ahead a little bit. This is Paul Rudd as Mr. Gruberson. Yes, that's his name. He is a seismologist and I guess a teacher here in this town of Somerville, Oklahoma. And this is after Phoebe finds this ghost trap, and Mr. Gruberson, he knows what it is because he's a big Ghostbusters fan. He's been following this stuff. We know that Phoebe and I'm assuming Trevor don't really know anything about the Ghostbusters. But this is our first look at the ghost trap, and it's lit up here, so that means it's got a ghost inside it. And again, seeing that it was green, I thought it could have been Slimer. We know that it's not now at this point because we've already seen this other one ghost through the trailer. We're going to see him again in a few images coming up. So it's not Slimer, but it is an active ghost trap. So that means all this technology, which I think Egon said has like a half-life of 1,000,000 years or whatever, still all working, still activated. But the fact that there's a ghost trapped inside it makes me wonder. I'm assuming they're going to let this ghost out because there's another scene where you can see like they're in the school, which is where this takes place, and there's something zooming around it. So I'm going to assume at some point somebody opens that trap. And that leads me to the assumption that there is no containment unit, or they haven't found a containment unit yet. And that means there's probably tons of ghosts just sitting around in Egon's basement. So, that might lead us to some other characters we might see in the movie, but we'll come back to that idea, I think, when we get to the end, what the other Ghostbusters are doing. Because we don't really see any other Ghostbusters. We don't see any Ghostbusters at all, actually. We hear the voice of one, but we don't see any of the original cast at all in this trailer. It's really focused on all the new characters. So what their role might be, we can think about that a little bit later on, but this was really, the big reveal for anybody who has not been following the news or has not known about a new Ghostbusters movie. But we now know that it is officially Spangler. These are Spangler's grandchildren. Carrie Coon's character is, I guess, the daughter of Egon, which, that's going to take some explaining there. You got to kind of wonder about that. Because we've never really seen Egon be romantic in any way. Like, even when we had the advances of Ann Potts' character, Janine, coming towards him in the first movie, I don't think anything happened. We don't really know, but I'm going to assume nothing happened because she ended up with Lewis in the next movie. So at some point in his life, Egon, I guess presumably, had a child or something. Unless this is maybe an older, different paternal Spangler. I don't know. That maybe just somehow things got moved around in the inheritance. I don't know, but as of now, it appears that she is a direct descendant of Egon Spangler, and this is his jumpsuit. I don't know what's behind those jumpsuits, if they're all Spanglers or if there are other Ghostbusters as well, because we do see that there's one, two, three, four of them. So it could be that Egon kept all of the memorabilia, all of the flight suits from the other four Busters in his basement. Maybe once they gave it all up. But we'll have to wait for the full movie to actually see whose names are on the rest of those. So here is really like the most important reveal, I think, for this scene. This is where you can see Logan Kim on the left with McKenna Grace, and they're kind of just wandering around this mine, which we see earlier in the movie as well, when Finn Wolfhard's character is looking around. He's hanging out with some of the other local kids, and they go to a mine shaft. This is more of that mine shaft, and if we look at the name on the front of this, this is the Shandor Mining Company. And again, Ivo Shandor is the character that we don't see in the first movie, but the catalyst of all the events that happen in it. He's the cause of the Gozer worshippers and building the structure in the penthouse in Manhattan that conducts all this PKE activity. And again, it's established 1927, which is when a lot of the events that were leading into parts of Ghostbusters essentially take place. So this is the Shandor Mining Company, and this starts to now put more of the pieces together, because we know that the town of Somerville, on their crest, they have like the Shandor Triangle, which we're seeing again here. They've got mining symbols. So I would imagine that Ivo Shandor must have bought this town somehow, and now it's just teeming with all this psychokinetic activity underground in these mines. But, that we don't really still entirely know of, but we do see something happening. We do see something bursting out of the ground earlier in the trailer. We're jumping back now to the beginning of the trailer, when, as I mentioned again, Trevor, Finn Wolfhard's character, is hanging out with the local kids, and they're looking at this shaft underground, and all of a sudden, this pops out of it. And I'm guessing some ghost gets loose. So this is where, my perception of the events of this trailer kind of started to get a little wonky, because I wonder if have they caught the ghost, or is the ghost from an earlier scene? I don't know, but this right here, this is probably like the thing that gave me like the most chills, besides another reveal coming up. And I brightened this one up a little bit. If you watch the trailer, it's not going to be as bright as this one is. But that's Paul Rudd's character, Mr. Gruberson, and on his car we hear a familiar growl and see a familiar sight. That's a terror dog's arm. And we remember terror dogs from the first movie. They were what Louis Tully and Dana turned into. So it looks like someone's getting possessed here. Someone's getting turned into a dog. I don't know who it is, but there is a terror dog in the film. It's back, and it's going after Mr. Gruberson. So that's going to be exciting to see that throwback. Here is a better shot in the trailer of Egon's farm area. This is, I guess, where the Ecto-1 is going to be held in. And you can see on the front lawn, the Easter egg here is really just that car on the front lawn. It seems like in his later age, Egon must have become like very, very nostalgic for the past. Because I'm not a car expert, so I couldn't really tell you exactly which car that is. I don't think that's a Cadillac ambulance, but it seems to be a Caddy or something similar. And I do know that during production, we saw a lot of notes from folks where Sony had bought a bunch of their old Ecto-1 looking cars. Again, I can't remember what the actual names are, but they bought a bunch of these. So Egon's backyard is basically littered with not even Ecto-1s, but just the basis of the Ecto-1 car. So that's a thing, I guess. Egon apparently collecting all the stuff. He really missed the good old days, I guess. This right here, though, this is the part where it gave me chills when Trevor finds the Ecto-1. He's off driving in the fields right now. This is the first time we see it in action. We don't hear the sirens at all in the trailer, but we see the car. It looks really dirty. It hasn't been taken care of in quite some time. But it's out and it works, so that much we know. And it's just really cool seeing the Ecto-1 drive again in this official capacity. It's not the Ecto-1 from the 2016 reboot. It's not the Ecto-1A from Ghostbusters 2, because those are apparently two different cars. It's the Ecto-1, it's back in action, so that's really cool. And not only that, it has a gunner seat, which we saw a lot of photos of in all of our Ghostbusters news videos. We saw it in action, and it's got a functioning proton gun. So we can see here that Phoebe is using the proton gun. We know that Trevor is driving, and we know that Logan Kim's character, whose name I forgot, unfortunately, I think he's also in the scene in the car, too, with a PKE meter and the Ecto goggles. If you want to see those photos, again, look at I believe it's a September video we did, the last one with the news. That one basically shows more photos of everybody inside the car in this particular scene. So that's really cool. They got a functioning proton pack. How is this an Easter egg? Well, it's kind of a throwback to the Ecto-1 that Kenner Toys made for the real Ghostbusters cartoon in 1986, whereas that one had this gunner seat on top of the car, on top of the hood with all the lights and things. In the case of this movie, we've got the gunner seat on the side of the car, but it's still a complete throwback. It's got to be a throwback to that Kenner toy, which is like one of the best Ecto-1 toys ever, one of the best toys of the 80s, but total reference to that. And it's so cool that they're actually including it as like a real part of the story here. So here, I want to talk a little bit more about this ghost that we saw earlier, and why my whole timey-wimey thing is getting a little confused now, because we're back in the town of Somerville, and we can see this ghost over here. This isn't a particularly good shot, but if you watch the trailer again, you'll see this ghost has a tail, actually. He's got a tail, he's got, a bunch of legs, little stubby-looking legs. And that's what makes me think that it's not the same ghost. I mean, it kind of looks like a Scolari face here because it's so fat and jiggly or whatever. But you can see a lot better here. It's not a Scolari brother. It's not Slimer. This is its own brand new ghost. So that's pretty awesome. We're going to get a new ghost. But again, that scene with Mr. Gruberson holding the trap, does that take place before or after? I don't really know. But a little bit of analysis there. We'll have to wait and see. So ultimately, that's there's a lot going on in this trailer. Not as much as I thought there would be. In terms of like the original Ghostbusters, we do hear Bill Murray's voice in it, but we don't see him. That's where I'm kind of like, I thought we'd see maybe one old timer, for lack of a better term, in this trailer. We're not getting any of them in this at all. We're gonna have to probably wait for the next trailer before we see who's gonna pop up, whether it's Ray, Winston, Peter, Dana, Janine. I mean, at this point, we don't think that Louis Tully, Rick Moranis is gonna be in it, but never say never until we actually see the full movie. I feel like there's gonna have to be a reference to him somewhere because he was pretty important to things as well. But so this is another little bit of analysis, a little bit of a factoid, if you will. Why is this movie taking place in Oklahoma, and how are they Egon's kids? Because a lot of people were thinking they'd be Ray Stance's kids. Granted, we saw that Callie had the glasses and looks a lot like Spangler. She even has the real Ghostbusters Egon curls. But how are they in Oklahoma? Well, it turns out that Egon actually, according to the novelization of the first Ghostbusters movie, grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. So I guess he's not really a New York City guy after all, whereas Ray was a Long Island guy, and I believe that Peter actually was a New Yorker for life, which makes sense. Egon apparently grew up in Cleveland, so I guess he wanted to get somewhere a little bit quieter and farther away from New York City than the other guys were. So that's why it's taking place there. And by the way, all those scenes are actually filmed in Alberta, Calgary. They're all filmed in Canada, so that's pretty cool. They didn't really do any filming actually in Oklahoma, but whatever. That's still really cool. Was I expecting more Easter eggs, more references? I guess I was, but what we got was still pretty satisfying. And the biggest takeaway for me is that this really is a brand new movie. And I mean that we're not going to be just throwing back the references just to have old references. We're going to have a whole new world to look at. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like the new Star Wars, how they're trying to break away from the old stuff, because you are trying to get that newer generation in. It's 30 years after the first one took place, 35 years after the first movie took place. By the time this comes out, it's 36 years. So it really is about getting that new audience to come, new audience to watch it and enjoy the film. So, again, like my initial thoughts now, having seen everything, looking at some of the Easter eggs, I'm back on board for this. I wasn't necessarily as excited when I first saw the photos and reading the plot, whatever, but seeing it now, I can kind of see a little bit more of what Jason Reitman's vision is. I could say that I'm all in now. I'm back on board for this 100%. My concerns are gone, and I'm just really excited to see what they do. I'm excited to see how the original cast is going to play into things. I feel like with this trailer, we're really only seeing the first act of the movie, maybe a little bit of tease of the second or third act, because that's, I think, when the Terror Dog thing will happen. It's not going to be, obviously, a first act thing. But I feel like we're still missing a lot of pieces of the puzzle of how this movie's going to turn out. There's still a lot of characters we haven't seen. And I'm going out here, my theory now is that if these are the grandchildren of the Spanglers, and fate and karma brought them back here, as Bill Murray's voiceover says in the movie when they first discovered the Ecto-1, I'm going to assume this is about the next generation in a way that, Ivo Shandor is not going to be necessarily in the movie as a ghost or anything. It's Ivo Shandor's next of kin who will be in this movie. That's who's running the town of Somerville. So that's where we're at this point. There's still a lot to analyze. I'm going to probably do a separate write-up on my website, Nerd News Today, with, again, all of this stuff here and collecting my thoughts in a much better way, because this is just very off the cuff, me trying to figure out what I want to talk about. But, I'm going to look at this a little bit more, probably do a better analysis, and have an article up on the website in the next day or two. So make sure to check out nerdnewstoday.com if you haven't. And hey, if you're still here, go ahead. I always get confused by how this works. Go ahead and there, it's on that side. Check out our Facebook, our Instagram, our Twitter. Follow us on Nerd News Today on all those sites. And hey, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this video, because we've been covering the Ghostbusters thing since day one, since this dropped. and we're going to keep covering this until the movie's out. And oh man, it's going to be some great times ahead. It's such a great time to be a Ghostbusters fan. So excited. I hope you're excited too. Let me know what you think about all these different things, these Easter eggs, this analysis we got here. Let me know if there's something that I missed that you think was really important to talk about, or just any other theories that you might have about the film now, since we've got really some concrete evidence, some actual physical evidence, as Ray would say, about the movie. And I do want to say, I guess I forgot to include it. I did have a full shot of Egon's spores, molds, and fungus collection, which is great. I looked up what some of those things are. Crazy weird stuff. But yeah, it's definitely a Spangler now. I just want to go back and look at the trailer again, just to do it frame by frame even. But we're not going to do that today. That's going to be a whole different day. So on that note, thanks for watching this video. I hope you're as excited as I am now for Ghostbusters 2020, aka Ghostbusters Afterlife. It's going to be a real interesting film. I think Jason Reitman's going to have a very unique take on the franchise. Going to be one that we're not expecting, but it's going to be good. I'm very excited for what this is. It's really like they move. It feels like for me now it's a movie for the maturing Ghostbusters fan from my generation, and an entry point for the younger generation. There's something for everybody in this movie. I think it's going to be scary. It's going to be funny, and I can see now where that whole heartwarming family thing is coming into now, more so than ever. So, very exciting. I'm just rambling now because I'm happy. But thanks again for watching. We'll see you guys here again soon on Nerd News Today, and keep watching. Ghostbusters away. I don't know how to end this. I'm just happy. See you guys later.